Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Yulianti, the student of English Literature in Methodist University of Indonesia. So today, I'd like to share a little bit about language production in psycholinguistics. So, before going further, there are three main points in psycholinguistics. It is about comprehension, speech production or language production, and language acquisition. So today I'm going to talk about specifically about language production. What is language or speech production? Language or speech production is a concept in psycholinguistics that describes the stages from the initial mental concept to the spoken or written linguistics result. For example, when somebody sees a picture of an apple, then using their mouth to physically pronounce or sound out the word apples. Then another person hearing this and perceiving the sounds that make up the concept of apple in their mind. Then they have the mental presentation of the apple. This is called as language or speech production. So, going further, when we are talking about language or speech production, for sure it is related or closely related to speaking. What is speaking? Speaking is the delivery of language through the mouth. In speaking, there are some main aspects: planning and execution, planning, speech as problem solving. Planning and execution are important roles in speaking. Before someone speaks, they will have already planned for what they want to speak in their mind. Then they will execute it and speak it up. And once it is done, planned or thought. So, how are the ways to plan and execute speech or language production? There are some ways in planning and executing speeches. The first is discourse plans, sentence plans, and lastly, continuance plans. Discourse plans is the first step for the speakers to decide what kind of discourse they are participating in. It might be like telling a story, describing an event, or making a pledge. Each kind of discourse has a different structure and they must plan their utterance to fit it. Its utterance must contribute to the discourse by conveying the correct message. For instance, in conversations, what discourse plans should we do? We surely have planned and thought for what kind of the person that we are speaking to. So, if the person is elder, what should we plan for the conversation? Further explanation, the person that you are planning to talk is dominant, for example. Dominant means the one who prefers to do the most of the talking and is a big picture person. This means what kind of discourse plan that you need. It means that you need to plan a short and sweet conversation that sticks to the fact. Another example, if you are talking or speaking to the person who needs the great amount of details, this means that you need to plan a conversation explaining the topic in details. And you should be ready, you as the speaker should be ready and willing to answer all the questions regarding the details of the topic that you are talking about. The second one is sentence plan. What is sentence plan? Sentence plan is giving the discourse and their intention to produce a sentence with the correct message. For sure, when somebody is speaking, they want to send a message to the listeners. So in this case, speaker must select one that will do this. Maybe they must decide how they want to convey their message, directly or indirectly with the other theoretical device. In sentence plans, there are three main subjects. The first is propositional content, evolutionary content, and the last one is thematic structure. So what is propositional content? Propositional content is what can be called as true and false when the meaning is clear. This is about how the situation and the context can be made clearly in the evaluation or in that situation of the speaking. For example, when I say, grass is green, it can be true and it can be false. Why? It is based on the situation. When you are talking and in your environment, the grass is green, then it's true. But when you are talking, okay, and the grass is dry and it's not green anymore, it's orange or maybe yellow, it means that this statement is false. And then the next one is evolutionary content. It is about the speaker's intention in producing the utterance. For instance, when you just go home from your work maybe, and your mom says, "Dear, there's a hamburger on the kitchen." Then your mom doesn't say this just for no intention. Your mom says this with some intentions. It can be your mom says this with the intention says that, "Dear, there's a hamburger on the kitchen. If you're hungry, you may serve it." Or maybe your mom says that with the intention to say that that's your dinner. And the dinner is a hamburger on the kitchen, on the table. So that is called as evolutionary content. And the last one is about thematic structure. Thematic structure is having the intention to build a cooperative conversation with the listener and also the speaker. Why? A cooperative conversation is called as when the both speaker and listener can get cooperated together and get into the conversation. So how to get a cooperative conversation? It is by having a good thematic structure. Now, in order to get a thematic structure, you need to have to understand and assume the listener's knowledge, state of mind, and level of understanding. For instance, when you are talking about a squid game to a listener, and this listener has never known about a squid game, she or he doesn't even know what squid game is, a movie or a talk show or whatever. So, if you're talking much about this topic, it means that you are not having a good cooperative conversation. Why? Because your listener doesn't understand what you are talking about. So remember, if you want to have a good cooperative of conversation, you need to understand the listener's knowledge, state of mind, and level of understanding about the topic. And the last one is constituent plans. It is putting the sentence in the right orders by planning its constituents. It may be like selecting specific words only phrase by phrase, which includes articles, nouns, and modifiers, and lastly, personal pronouns and terms of address. So, just like Stephen Molyneux said that we are the creators built on a house of cards of language. So remember that before producing your language, remember to have a good planning so that what you say can be accepted fully by the listeners. So that's all for my video. Remember to leave a thumb here. Thank you for watching and goodbye.